But you actually started working in computers and doing graphics even before you went to college.
Yeah, my first skit with 3D, my first kind of touch on 3D was back when I was like, I think it was about 8 or 10 years old with the Commodore VIC-20. I remember kind of coding over about 2 days or so a kind of 3D splash sine wave, which was, like I said, I coded it from memory. Don't ask me to do it now. I would have no clue. I look back and think, how the hell did I actually physically do that? I've got no idea how I actually did that. But it was, if you imagine like the result of a splash, but without obviously the additional droplet on the rebound, but it was kind of like this kind of shape that was plotted at the end of the day, and it took like 8 hours, between 4 and 8 hours to plot out.
Maybe related to polar coordinates. So
yeah,
like x is equal to cosine.
It was, yeah. It was a lot. It was a lot of plot.
Sine.
It was a lot of plot coordinates. There was a lot of draws, pixel coordinates, and so on. But if anyone kind of has done, you know, Commodore Basic in the past, it was what were called poke commands.
Oh yes, the poking into the memory, the peeking from the memory.
Poke,
gotcha.
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Yes.
It was a lot of that kind of, a lot of poking and peeking, which sounds a bit wrong, but yeah, that's what it was back then. But
well, actually, it's kind of funny because in the early days of computers with BASIC, if you start poke and peek, if you just like set it do a for loop, and you just go make it really big, but start from the BASIC, just for the heck of it, just see what would happen. And if you just start poking through the memory, eventually you'll crash the computer.
Yeah.
I did that a couple times on really small computers.
Yeah, I mean this thing was a very. I mean, I managed to be able to do this because we had the standard VIC-20, which is like the 3K base memory, and then you had what was called the super expansion pack, which give you an extra 3K memory. So they had a total of 6.
Can you believe?
I know, 6K of memory, 6K of memory.
6K of memory.
But the thing is, this pack gave you additional commands that you had access to. So you could basically code these additional plots and draws and what have you. So you could start plotting out like 2D shapes and 3D shapes and what have you. It's kind of pseudo 3D shapes that it was at the time. So we had the ability to kind of code this stuff. And that was my kind of main skit into it. But then when I used to go on holiday to East Anglia, which is like on the east coast of the UK. Every single year, we always used to go to the same place each year. And they had this little arcade there where they had track and field. That came out, that game where you had to mash the buttons as fast as physically possible to get the sprinter to run down the way. And my first bout into like doing sprites and stuff, which kind of led on to my 3D stuff later on, was I used to play this track and field game, and I was really good at the sprint because they had the two buttons and the one in the middle, which was like the jump. So what you used to do is you kind of like moist, it was kind of really grubby, but you used to go like that and go like that on the buttons, and you could run really, really quick and get the record every single time. And then the next one after that was a long jump, and we could never get that right. So it was, you could go really, really well on the sprint, the 100-meter sprint, but the long jump used to fail miserably every single time. So I got back home. I got back to Nottingham, where I'm from originally, and I had a VIC-20 still, and the game actually was out. I think it was on the 64 at the time, on the Commodore 64. But I could not get a copy of the damn thing for the VIC-20, so I decided to code my own. So I coded my own version of the Sprinter. So you had to whack the R key 1,000,000 times within a certain amount of time to get to the finish line. And again, I coded the sprite and coded the run, and again, asked me to do it now, not a clue. I'm back then something like, I don't know, 10 years old. 8 or 10 years old or something like that, and again, ask me to do it now.
Again,
over my head.
You started very early on.
Yeah.
And
I could not do it now.
At your age, the beginnings of the computer industry was there, and it's good because you got to be able to, at such a young age be able to jump right into that. And it's, you know, kids are doing that a lot nowadays. So
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
going to check on this video for a second.
Oh, that's great.